Buksan po natin ang ating mga Biblia sa Titus chapter 1, verses 10 up to 14. For there are many who are insubordinate, empty talkers, and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision party. They must be silenced, since they are upsetting whole families by teaching for shameful gain what they ought not to teach. Tumalun po tayo sa verse 13. Therefore, rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith, not devoting themselves to Jewish myths and the commands of people who turn away from the truth. I'd like to share with you the treatment of false teachers and of those whom they have influenced. The treatment of false teachers and those whom they have influenced. Paano dapat natin tratuhin ang mga false teachers at yung mga tao sa loob ng iglesia na kanilang nalinlang? Sana'y tulungan ako ng Diyos na maging malaking pagpapala at tulong itong pag-aaralan natin ngayon. So, tingnan natin, here's a quick look of Paul's instructions na makikita natin dito sa binasa nating passage from Titus 1, verses 10 up to 14. Apat ang makikita natin. 1, sabi ni Paul, the false teachers must be silenced. Verse 11. Another, sabi doon, the false teachers and those whom they have influenced must be sharply rebuked. Yan ay makikita natin sa verse 13. Ikatlo na makikita natin dito, the goal of such rebuke is that they may be sound in the faith. Yun ang goal. And then, implied dito sa instruction ni Paul, yung kanyang charge sa kanila, that these people who have been corrected of their errors must continually reject wrong teaching and avoid false teachers. So yan ang titingnan natin yung apat na aspeto na yan sa mga instruction ni Apostle Paul on how to treat false teachers and those whom they have influenced. Una, ulitin ko, they are to silence false teachers. Number 2, they are to sharply rebuke the false teachers and those whom they have influenced. Ikatlo, they are to aim for the salvation and restoration of those in error. At ikaapat, they are to charge them to continually reject wrong teaching and avoid false teachers. Yan ang titingnan natin ngayon. So kung hindi nyo ako nasundan dyan, don't worry, babanggitin ko naman uli yan as my headings dito sa 4 points na titingnan natin ngayon. Okay, so again, we're looking at how to treat the treatment of false teachers and those whom they have influenced. How do you deal with them? There are 4 things that we see here. Let's go to the first very quickly. The first is silence the false teachers. Nakalagay sa verse 11 ng chapter 1 ng Titus. They must be silenced, since they are upsetting whole families by teaching for shameful gain what they ought not to teach. Now, these false teachers must be silenced because of the damage that they were doing to the families in the congregations. Kasi hindi lang siguro isang congregation pinag-usapan dito. We're talking about different congregations in different towns on Crete. At sabi ni Pablo, kailangan makapag-raise tayo ng mga elders dito and then to confront itong mga false teachers who are influencing hindi lang individuals, kundi whole families. Look at what other translations say regarding this. Sabi ng Amplified Bible, their mouths must be stopped, for they are mentally distressing and subverting whole families. Sabi ng Net Bible, they mislead whole families. Sabi ng NIV, they are ruining whole households. Sabi ng New Living Translation, they have already turned whole families away from the truth. Sabi ng West's New Testament, they overthrow the faith of whole families. So yan ang influence na ginagawa nitong mga false teachers na to. Kaya sabi ni Paul, you must silence them. Now, please take note. Itong phrase na ito, sabi, they must be. Yung phrase na must be. This tells us that this duty to silence false teachers is a moral obligation of both Titus and the elders of the church. Obligado sila na gawin ito. Sabi nga ng New American Bible, ito yung Catholic translation. Pero ang ganda ng translation na yon, sabi doon, it is imperative to silence them as they are upsetting whole families by teaching for sordid gain what they should not. Kita niyo yung salita doon? It is imperative to silence them. They must be silenced. Kinakailangan. Hindi pwede kung ikaw ay tinawag ng Panginoon Diyos bilang pastor o elder at nakikita mo na nai-impluwensyahan yung mga kapatiran ng false teaching, nakikita mo may pumapasok ng mga false teachers sa iglesia, parang pikit mata ka lang, see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil. Hindi pwede yun. You must do something about it. It is the moral obligation of the church leaders to address itong issue na to ng false teaching. Sabi nga ni John Calvin, a good pastor ought therefore to be on the watch, so as not to give silent permission to wicked and dangerous doctrines to make gradual progress or to allow wicked men an opportunity of spreading them. Hindi pwedeng tahimik ka lang. Kasi yung pagiging tahimik mo, pinapayagan mo yung mga false teachers na magpatuloy sa kanilang masamang gawain. And false teaching is sin. Minsan, hindi nararamdaman ng iba. Nakala nila, ano lang yan? Kanya-kanyang perspective lang yan. Pananaw mo ganito, pananaw niya ganyan. Magkaiba lang tayo ng pananaw. Pero hindi ganun yon. If your teaching contradicts or opposes the teaching of the Bible, you are sinning against God. Ikaw ay nagkakasala laban sa Diyos. Sabi nga ni John MacArthur, false teachers threaten the very truth of God. They threaten the purposes of God. They threaten the people of God. Anybody like the Apostle Paul who has a passion for truth will have a passion for silencing those who speak error. His letters are full of this, dealing with error, dealing with deception, dealing with false prophets, false teachers. And we have the same need today. In many cases, the church has failed in silencing them. Mahina ang church para gawin ito. Now, let's look at some details of this. How do you silence false teachers? Now, Paul stresses that these false teachers must be silenced. Yung Greek word, kung saan nanggaling yung English word na silenced, is used only once in the New Testament. And it means to close the mouth by means of a muzzle. Ngayon, nilalagay dun sa mga asong nangangagat, biglang sinusuotan sila ng muzzle para hindi na nila mabuksan yung kanilang bibig. To restrain by means of a bridle. Yun nilalagay dun sa kabayo para mapigilan siya dun sa kanyang gusto niyang tumakbo, pumunta lang kung anong direksyon, nilalagyan siya ng bridle sa kanyang bibig para makontrol siya. And it also means to put to silence. So it's a graphic picture of what should be done to false teachers. Kinakailangan, sarado yung bibig, no? Of course, you don't do that literally, but the question now is, how do you do that? How do you silence false teachers? Now, let me begin with the wrong way. Sabi ni Albert Barnes, it is of course implied here that this was to be done in a proper way and in accordance with the spirit of the gospel. The apostle gives Timothy no civil power to do it, nor does he direct him to call in the aid of the civil arm. Ibig sabihin to, na dito sa problema ng pagpapatahimik ng mga false teachers, hindi ginagamit ang gobyerno. Yung kapangyarihan ng gobyerno, hindi ginagamitan ng baril. Of course, there are some instances wherein kailangan mo talagang tawagin ng gobyerno in the sense na, halimbawa, biglang may false teacher na pumunta rito, nanggugulo na talaga siya, edi tawagin mo na 911. Boss, itong taong ito, pwede ba, pakipick up na, yung gulo-gulo eh. Inaaway na yung mga tao dito, ganyan, sinasaktan na yung ganito, o talagang he's disrupting our fellowship. But what I'm trying to say here is that, kung siya ay nandun sa loob, hindi ka dependent sa gobyerno para siya ay patahimikin in the sense that, for example, what happened during the 12th century and continuing in the Roman Catholic Church. And I am referring to the institution they have called the Inquisition. In the 12th century, the Roman Catholic Church began to suppress what it perceived to be heresy using a system of ecclesiastical courts and tribunals called inquisitions. These religious courts used, pakinggan niyo na mabuti ito, torture to investigate heresy and executions to silence the heretics. The Inquisition has an interesting development. There were other inquisitions that followed after these first Inquisition movements. In the 16th century, in response to the Protestant Reformation, the Roman Catholic Church officially called this body, composed of cardinals and other Catholic officials, the Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Roman and Universal Inquisition. Yun ang tawag nila dito sa grupo ng mga tao na nagto-torture sa mga nagtuturo daw ng maling doktrina na kontra sa tinuturo ng Roman Catholic Church. Ulitin ko yung mahabang pangalan na yun. The Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Roman and Universal Inquisition. Yun ang official na tawag noong 16th century. In 1908, this was renamed the Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Holy Office. Tinanggal na yung pangalang Inquisition. Then it was changed again to Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith in 1965. In 1983, the word sacred was dropped out, and up to now, it is now called the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, or in short, CDF. At alam niyo ba, meron pa pala yun ngayon sa Roman Catholic Church. What this means is that the Inquisition is still actually in existence, except only that the abhorrent term Roman Inquisition has been changed to a more acceptable term, Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Now, as to their methods, I don't know if the Roman Catholic Church has officially stated that it will no longer use torture to investigate heresy. I was reading Wikipedia, tinitingnan ko, baka may makita akong nakalagay doon na salitang torture. Pero tinanggal na nila ngayon, although iba na yung pangalan, wala na yung term na Inquisition, although meron pa rin yun ngayon, pero siguro tinanggal na nila yung salitang torture. I wonder, siguro dahil siyempre, magre-react yung maraming mga tao, yung mga human rights, mga advocates, pero pag naging katanggap-tanggap na naman yung kaparaanan na yan para hanapin ang katotohanan, then I have no doubts na madali nilang i-reintroduce uli yun. But that's what the Apostle Paul is saying we should not do. That's not what it means to silence the heretics. Na ano ba, hindi ka ba titigil na magtuturo ng false teaching? Torturing kita dyan. That's not the way to do it. So how do you do it? The right way to silence it na pinopromote ni Apostle Paul dito. And I like the suggestion na binigay ni John MacArthur dito. There are three things that he suggested here. First, we silence them, sabi niya, not exactly his word, pero I just rephrased it, by revoking their right to teach or to speak. That means to remove from them the opportunity to spread their teachings in the churches. Pakinggan niyo yung sabi ni MacArthur patungkol dito. That is to say, don't put false teachers a platform to speak. We give them no opportunity. We take away the privilege of teaching. Don't put them on a platform. Don't give them a class in college or seminary. You don't give them a Sunday school class. You don't give them a Bible study. You don't put them on radio, television, or publish their books. You silence them. And policing this problem is really the work of the elders of the church. So huwag mo silang papayagang magsalita sa radyo, mag-publish ng mga libro, magpakita sa telebisyon. Kung ikaw ay manager ng isang Christian radio station, Christian television, huwag mong papayagan itong mga false teachers magkalat ng kanilang lagim sa pamagitan ng stasyon mo. Sadly, this is not what is happening right now in some parachurches and Christian radio and TV stations. I have personally experienced this na nakita ko na nangyari. For example, some time ago, hindi ko na sabihin kung ano organization. Kasi hindi naman ibig sabihin siguro lahat sila ganun ang ginawa. It just happened. A particular parachurch. One time I was invited and while I was there, before speaking, bumulong sa akin yung isa sa mga leaders sila. Sabi niya, Pastor, nakikita mo yung tao na yun? Ang galing magturo nun. Na-invite na namin minsan yan dito sa aming magturo. Kaya lang, oneness nga lang, pero ang galing magturo. Sinabihan ko, bakit niyo pinapayagang magturo ang isang taong oneness? Kontra sa pananampalataya natin yung kanyang tinuturo eh. That should not be. Ito yung sinasabi ritong, silence them. Don't give them a venue. Don't give them a platform to express itong mga ideas nila that are contrary to Scripture. Dapat, yun ang mga pinapatahimik. Sinasabihan yung ganong klaseng mga nagkakalat ng maling pangunawa, uy, itigil mo yan, mali yung ginagawa mo. And I've heard, again, itong taong ito to refer itong mga groups na ito in a very positive way that could lend to misunderstanding. It's really disappointing that in some instances, yung pang mga totoong mga preachers at saka mga teachers na nagtuturo ng salita ng Panginoon Diyos sa radyo at sa telebisyon, ang pinapatahimik. Yun ang malungkot. For example, I heard John MacArthur express that. Sabi niya, meron daw silang isang programa sa isang radio station na tinanggal. It was a Christian radio station. Dahil daw, meron na daw mga nagrereklamo at na-offend daw dun sa kanyang mga katotohanang sinasabi. Sila yung tinanggal. Si John MacArthur yung tinanggal. So this is the first thing that we find here pag sinabing silence them. To silence the false teachers means to revoke or to remove their right to teach or to speak. Don't give them a venue to express yung kanilang mga maling katuruan. Secondly, this can also be practically applied in the sense that we silence them by overpowering them with truth. Overpower them with truth. Yun ang ginawa ng ating Panginoong Hesus sa Matthew chapter 22 and verse 34. No, ilang beses na nakabangga ng ating Panginoong Hesus ang mga Pariseo, ang mga scribes at ang mga Sadducees. And what did Jesus Christ do? He confronted them with the truth. Kaya sabi nitong Matthew 22 verse 34, Jesus silenced the Sadducees. Yan ang kanyang ginagawa eh. How did He silence them? Nagmilagro ba si Jesus Christ para bigla silang mapipi? No. Ano ginawa ni Jesus? He spoke the truth in such a powerful fashion na wala nang masagot at wala nang masabi yung mga nagtuturo ng false teaching. I'd like to read to you this illustration. This is very interesting. In the early 1980s, a Manila faith healer gained great prominence through radio. Using the stage name of Johnny Midnight, he claimed to mediate healing to his listeners by a process known as toning. Nako, matunog na matunog yun. Nandun pa ako sa Manila noong time na yun, naririnig ko to eh. He adopted the name because his late-night radio show started at midnight. Johnny Midnight invited the listener to place a glass of water on top of the radio. After conducting a series of incantations, he told the listener to drink the water and receive healing. The program provoked a great stir in Manila, raising the fascination in occult practice and causing confusion in the churches. Tingnan niyo, pati mga churches na kasing nadistorbo eh. FEBC, medium wave station, DZAS, intervened. I was there. And nag-intervene nung panahon na yon. That was in the 1980s, ang DZAS. The station took off its regular programs, replacing them with a day-long marathon which investigated the occult practice from a biblical perspective and invited listeners to phone in with their questions. As a direct result, many were greatly helped. Some lit bonfires to burn occult books and other paraphernalia. It was not long before the toner was off the air. Hindi tumagal, natanggal na rin si Johnny Midnight sa airwaves. Pangalawang illustration. Ito, I really witnessed this. This was the first of a series of marathon broadcasts conducted by DZAS in response to specific social issues. Another celebrated victory was in 1985 when the Maharishi technology of the unified field was poised to take over Manila's financially bankrupt University of the East. A visiting cults expert provided the backbone for much of FEBC's day-long broadcasts. The Maharishi people were angered by the transmission demanding equal time, which they were denied, with their movement exposed to be nothing more than thinly disguised Hinduism. All of its imported supporters, more than 1,000, were on planes out of the Philippines within a week. I can remember that. Doon ako na-impress sa ginawa ng DCS. Biruin niyo, marathon, isang buong araw. Meron silang in-invite na magaling na speaker na naiintindihan tungkol sa transcendental meditation. Now, transcendental meditation is something that strikes a chord in my heart kasi galing ako dun eh. Na-involve ako doon. When I left Roman Catholicism, I became a member of Transcendental Meditation. I was a practicing TM. I was practicing Transcendental Meditation. And then, kilala ko yung mga tao ito, mga leaders na nagpapatakbo nito noon. But it was because they were not allowed. Hindi sila pinayagan ng access dito sa radyo kasi hindi ito yung pantay silang magsasalita. Basta tumira ng tumira yung mga totoong mananampalataya at yung totoong katuruan. And this is what it means. They were silenced. In a week's time, nagkaroon ng pagbabago. Yung binili na UE, it was bought already for $1 million. Nabasa ko sa internet. Na repurchase ng mga stockholders ng University of the East. And because they had so much money, they were even willing to buy other institutions and schools here in our country. Plano nila to bring in the age of enlightenment na gawa ng Transcendental Meditation. Thank God that the church silenced itong mga false teachers na ito, empowering them with the truth. Kita nyo yung marathon teaching na yon. Dire-diretso, umaga hanggang gabi, kahit isang araw lang yon. Dahil malakas na yung programa ng DZAS noon, ang daming naapektuhan, ang daming naturuan. That's the way to silence false teachers. There is a third way to silence false teachers. We silence them by means of holy living. By means of holy living. Sabi ng 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 15, "For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people." So how do you silence the ignorance of foolish people? By doing good. Lagi kasing may kasamang kasamaan yun pagka nagtuturo ng false doctrine. Usually, pagka inimbestigahan mo na mabuti, nagiging bunga nun is an evil lifestyle. And so, ang pagtapat doon is bring in people who are holy, who are godly, who can teach God's word skillfully. Kaya ngayon ang dahilan, merong Titus chapter 1 verse 9 na nakalagay that the elders must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught. Pero in addition to that, the previous verses talks about the character of the elder. Kaya dapat yung elder, maayos yung kanyang buhay, maayos yung kanyang pamilya, maayos yung kanyang character, magaling siyang magturo. Kaya niyang magturo ng doktrina ng maayos, kaya niyang i-confront ang mga false teachers. Because by that, by means of a holy life and clear, logical teaching, he will be able to silence false teachers. What is sad is, pagka tayo halimbawa na mga nagtuturo ng katotohanan, nakikita ng mga unbelievers ang ating inconsistency, nakikita nila na malabo ang karakter natin, ang buhay natin, imbis na makatulong tayong magdala ng solusyon sa problema, ginagatungan pa natin yung problema. Nadadagdagan pa yung lakas ng loob ng mga false teachers na magpatuloy sa kanilang maling katuruan. Sabihin nila, kayo, turo kayo ng turo against us. Bakit tinan nyo nga buhay ninyo? Pagka ang isang tao, for example, na tumitira sa kasalanan, tumitira sa false teaching, pagka yung taong yun ay bumagsak sa problema, for example, ng prostitution, tulad ng nangyari sa mga Christians, halimbawa sa United States. A preacher na dati, taas ng galang ko, Jimmy Swaggart, for example, grabe, talagang pag nagtuturo, umiiyak pa yon, talagang dalang-dala ako noon. Naka-attend ako ng isang concert crusade niya some time ago, nung bago pa lang ako sa pananampalataya. And it was really hurtful for the body of Christ when he fell into the sin of sexual immorality. Ngayon, wala na. Practically is unknown to the new generation. Maaring may ministry pa siya, pero wala na. Wala nang impact yung kanyang ministry ngayon because of that fall. Pero kung merong mga tao, kunyari, na maayos yung kanilang buhay, ganun ang power pagka nagturo. Tapos, this teaching is backed up by a holy life, righteous life. Ibang nagiging dating sa mga false teachers. Sabihin na, talagang itong mga taong ito, totoo talaga yung kanilang tinuturo. Tingnan mo lang yung kanilang buhay. And so that's the third thing that we see. So ulitin natin, how do you silence? You silence false teachers by several things, several ways. Removing their right to teach or speak. Secondly, by overpowering them with the truth. And thirdly, by means of holy living. So that's the first thing that we see here. Yun ang unang sabi ni Pablo sa Titus chapter 1 verse 11. They must be silenced. The second thing that we see here na dapat gawin to address itong mga false teachers and those whom they have influenced is found in verse 13. Rebuke them sharply. Yung salitang rebuke comes from a Greek word that emphasizes exposure, that will plainly show the error of one's character and teaching and hopefully to convince them. So talagang i-expose mo, ipapakita mo yung kamalian nitong taong ito, yung kanyang katuruan. And then hopefully, in order to convince them, merong isang Bible dictionary, the Complete Word Study Dictionary, ang kanyang definition ng rebuke, dun sa Greek word na pinanggalingan nito is this: to convict, to prove one in the wrong, and generally with a suggestion of shame of the person convicted. So, ulitin ko, no? Ipakita mo na siya ay mali, prove that he is wrong, and then may kasama pa yon yung sa pag-prove mo na siya ay mali, na siya ay mapapahiya. Parang may sense na ganon. Siyempre, pag nakita mong mali ka, lagi mo nang tinuturo, siya, mapapahiya ka naman talaga doon, di ba? So, this is the sense when the Apostle Paul says, rebuke. And the verb, rebuke, is in the present tense, active voice, and imperative mood. To put it simply, ang ibig sabihin nito, keep on rebuking them. Keep on rebuking them. Pag may false teachers, mali yung sasabihin mo, ay nako, pagod na ako. Dati, nirebuke ko na sila eh. Wala naman silang ginawa. Wala, hindi ko na lang sila. Yaan mo na lang sila. Hindi ganun eh. Dito, keep on rebuking them. Don't stop doing it. And siguro, to give us a better insight regarding this, tingnan ninyo sinabi ni Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 4. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verses 2 up to 4. Particularly, look at verse 3. Sabi niya doon, the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching. Darating daw ang panahon na yung mga tao, ayaw na nilang makinig ng doktrina, tinatamad na sila, they're not interested. Pero itong sabi ni Paul, ano daw ang dapat gawin? Look at verse 2. Sabi niya, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. Ano ibig sabihin to? Pag sinabi niyang in season, that means when preaching is popular and people want to hear the teaching, want to hear doctrine, want to hear the Word of God. So, yung time na yung mga tao interesado makinig ng doktrina, sige, ituloy mo pagtuturo ng doktrina. But not only during those times, even when preaching is out of season.